People who have worked at hotels during fan conventions. Which fan base is the most inconsiderate? Not fan conventions, but bodybuilder conventions are pretty messy. Everything is orange from spray tans. Bed sheets, towels, bathtubs, bath mats, floors. Pretty much everything is ruined. Those guys all look like hot dogs. I wouldn't want a bunch of hot dogs staying at my place. Holy crap. Finally, an Ask Reddit that relates directly to me. I am the banquet captain of a hotel, so I have to host all dining aspects of these conventions. Upon reading this question, I instantly, without a doubt, knew the answer. The National Button Society. It consists of extremely elderly shirt button collectors and enthusiasts from all over the country, mostly Midwesterners. They demand we don't clean the tables or vacuum the floors until a week after they leave in case some old butt leaves behind a $5,000 button or something like that. They didn't frick around when it came to button auctioneering. These old people demanded things from the hotel restaurant when they were closed, and then come to the banquet hall angrily looking for a free hot meal. They very rarely tip above 10% to the restaurant servers too, I've heard. They're just the dumbest, most inconsiderate, least self-aware on the planet. You know, I really wasn't expecting that answer. Just about any MLM Amway etc. group, they all make $1 million per year and will tell you about it all day long in an attempt to recruit you, but when it comes time to tip for something, they've misplaced their wallet. Listen carefully. When you're talking to the MLM people, they'll always tell you they're making $1 million next year. Having the good fortune to encounter them again 18 months later to ask how it's going is a rare treat. On a positive note, everything I've heard about Gen Con from locals in Indianapolis is great. Biggest tabletop gaming convention in the US. One waiter said to me, "We love you guys. You're way better than the Pokemon convention. Those people have so many allergies." Which is incidentally one of the funniest things I've ever casually overheard. Gen Con has a good relationship with the city of Indianapolis, and in return Indy treats Gen Con attendees like kings. Every business in the downtown area has welcome Gen Con posted outside, and for a few days each year Indianapolis feels like home. It's awesome. So we try to treat the people who are hosting us with kindness and respect, too. Freaking realtors. Re-MAs holes as they are affectionately referred to in the hotel I worked in. Noisy, cheap, super entitled, arrogant, just a pain in the butt to deal with. I noticed a great difference between the nouveau riche realtors with the bad attitudes and the truly wealthy powerful who could buy the hotel with pocket change and asked how your job was going and was there a decent place for fish and chips around. Amen. I have worked in customer service in some very nice places in SoCal and you can usually tell who is whom. I used to work at a small hotel that was popular with the dog show circuit when the Kennel Club came to town during the summer. Dog show people are weird. You know those people in movies who overly pamper their pets with bottle imported water, steaks, etc. Yeah, that stereotype has nothing on these people, but they were pleasant, didn't cause a ruckus, and followed the rules at least. I will say on their behalf that they were always good about cleaning up after their pets. Never had a problem with poop piles in the hotel grassy areas, which was nice. I was staying in a hotel that was hosting a regional coroners convention. While doing work in this quiet little bar with my laptop they piled in, ordering drinks for everyone, hitting on each other, talking about doing blowback at one of their rooms. One of them felt bad that I was trying to work. At this point I actually gave up and was having fun watching them. That he started buying me drinks and introduced me to one of the single detectives and kept trying to get us to go back to his room with another lady. Not sure if she was a detective or a coroner at this point, and drink tequila and do some blow. It was a heck of a time, I'll tell you that. TLD. I never knew coroners were such a lively bunch. Every day they see how quickly it can all end. They have an excuse to live it up. No matter the hotel, whenever a youth sports tournament occurs the hotel will be filled with hordes of unsupervised children running, screaming, and pretty much destroying everything they have access to. The parents usually group together, ignore the kids completely and start drinking. I don't blame them. It was probably a long day for them too. However, they usually become louder and more obnoxious than the kids. Since they're tired and drunk, they become rude, demanding, develop a real attitude about everything. What makes it worse is that these attitudes happen in group of people and you'll be harassed all at once. Any other guests at the hotel become furious because dozens and dozens of people are outside their doors running and yelling. We are usually helpless to control them or kick them out, like we do with a single loud room. This is why I am glad we have video cameras in the hallways. I can hunt down buttholes like that and kick them out. I was once staying in a hotel full of electrical engineers. They seemed okay for the most part, but every time I got on an elevator there would be a group of them with every button pressed arguing about elevator algorithms. They weren't elevator engineers or anything, as far as I could tell, and it was a different group every time. It just seemed that every time a group got on one they'd inevitably start arguing about the elevators. This is actually hilarious. I'm only a software engineer, but I'll admit to having this discussion once. Kept my hands off the buttons, though. I work in a hotel restaurant right across the street from a convention center, so I see a lot of different convention crowds. My favorites so far have been the Magicians Convention and Comic Con. The Magicians are just super laid back and happy people. The worst crowd has been for the Joyce Meyer Convention. Rude, entitled, and bad tippers. I'm sure they're not all like this, but it was a bad experience. There are also several pyramid scheme type conventions that come through and those are just weird. No, I don't want to buy your magic lotion. I'm just here to wait on you. And please don't leave samples of your product instead of a tip. I was a bellman at a hotel with a 90,000 square, featuring city convention center attached. There's 3 different ones that come to my mind. 1. Dance and cheerleading conventions competitions. Holy crap, the parents are horrible. You can tell how hard they are on their children based on the way they treat the staff. Very demanding, rude, and entitled. The kids are awesome. Usually very spirited and fun to joke around with, but holy frick, the parents, usually mothers, dads, were just busy getting drunk in the bar, are crappy. On top of that, you see all these 4-year-old girls dolled up like they're 25, and that's just freaking sad to see. And imagine how you would feel if 900 girls who just put on way too much perfume roamed your place of business for 3 straight days. That crap gives you a headache. 2. Hockey teams. Yes, specifically hockey. My hotel had a crap load of sports teams come through, but hockey was exceptionally bad. First, the equipment. I played hockey, so I know how it is. The equipment smells horrible, and the smell travels and lingers through the entire hotel. Second, the kids. They are loud as heck, are running and pushing each other the entire freaking time, and they seem to think playing floor hockey in the halls at 1 AM is a generous thing to do. They damage the property, disrupt other guests, and generally wouldn't give a crap about anyone else. And third, the parents. Frick, the parents can't seem to control the kids, and when you tell their kids what to do, they will get defensive as frick. 3. Multi-level marketing companies. Not only do you have to deal with a crap load of people with delusions of grandeur that tip like crap, but then while trying to do your job, you're having 300 people try and sell you on their bull crap. No, I do not want to buy into your stupid traveling business crap. I have enough going on in my life. TL. DR. Dance cheer competitions and convention. Hockey teams. Multi-level marketing companies. We have a pyramid scheme group rent a meeting room weekly. Every week they reintroduce themselves to me and try to get me to sign up. I so badly want to stop all their victims at the door and tell them what they're getting into. I worked at a resort for a few years, and the worst group we ever had was the CEO's daughter's wedding. They figured they owned the place, so they drank like fish, walked out on half their bar tabs, and generally trashed the place. On the other hand, we also hosted a Teamsters convention, and all stereotypes aside, they were the most polite and respectful group we ever hosted. 10/10 would invite those guys to a house party. In general, I find truckers to be good folk. Hey, hotel employee for 3 years now, and I'm going to say sports people and athletes, in particular junior athletes. We have had a plethora of swimmers, athletics, sports groups etc. over the last few months, particularly thanks to the recent Commonwealth Games. Over the 2 or 3 months before the games began, we had a number of groups from different teams, mostly consisting of juniors aged 14-16, and they were a nightmare. I have never met a more demanding, Self-absorbed, immature and disruptive bunch of people. In all of my time working here, we couldn't do anything to improve their stay. Nothing was good enough. And they were incredibly loud and inconsiderate to others in the hotel. They were abusive to staff members and they made a point of treating their rooms like an absolute pigsty. There was nothing redeeming about these groups. Everybody seemed to make a point of treating the hotel like they owned the place and there seemed to be no way to reason with them. I banned at least 2 from ever using us in the future because of the chaos they caused. The only exception were those who traveled with parents. The parents were somewhat demanding but they were kind and good natured. They tended to keep the kids under control and they were always grateful when we could go the extra mile. Juggalos are the worst. They spray Fago everywhere, act like complete buttholes, break everything, and just do completely douchy things. Because of this, ICP has been banned from every venue they've held a GOTJ at. I went to the one in Peoria in 2003, and they were breaking toilets, spray painting crap, and at one point, some security guys got a bit scared and started pelting everyone with tear gas. Not exactly a convention, but it's the worst when One Direction stays with us. Basically, they hire extra security whenever they stay with us as a group but then decide it's a great idea to broadcast their location to their fan base, aka they're a bunch of dickbags. We pretty much have to brace for it whenever the band is in-house. They're everywhere. My friend in sales told me she once found 2 girls hiding in the sales office bathroom. Not sure what their end goal was, to be honest. Of course, this wouldn't make me as mad if all of the teenage girls would just keep it in the hotel. I work in accounting, which is in the sub-basement level, so I rarely need to go into the actual hotel. Instead, they've decided to outsmart security and congregate around the employee entrance. It definitely makes for frustrating end of days when all I'm trying to do is get out but have to deal with wading through a gaggle of fangirls. TL. DR. Frick One Direction. I work for a convention center and the loosest crowd we ever had was medical students. A few highlights from the night. A circle jerk of about 6 males in the lobby. Someone locking themselves in the toilets and screaming until we had to call someone to break down the door. Turned out they were ejected by a crush. Trying to pull a tablecloth from out under a full table of glassware. Vomiting in their beer jugs and hiding them under tables. These people are tomorrow's doctors. And the excuse I got from an organizer was they study so hard and this is the only chance they have to let loose. You can't just casually drop circle jerk of about 6 males in the lobby and just move on. This demands an explanation. Nothing against the fanbase in general, but we had an anime convention at the hotel I worked at and they were absolutely horrendous. I heard tons of stories about sinks and bathtubs with obscene amounts of pee vomit in them, ridiculous amounts of property damage, and people getting wasted and passing out in hallways, and then swinging at the people who awoke them. Some of the cosplay was cool, but they refused to play by our rules and we had to keep chasing dudes in monster masks with fake AKs out of the water park in the hotel. I did get to see a furry in the wild for the first time that weekend, which was pretty nifty. I had never actually seen anything like that in real life, though I definitely knew they existed. The whole thing was a shame, too. I really wanted to enjoy that weekend because it seemed like something I could enjoy as well. But the people that stayed at our hotel really gave that whole lot a bad rep. Not a fan convention, but an industry one. People in the hospitality industry. We hosted a huge convention of travel agents, hoteliers, people from Expedia and the like. It was 4 days of, well, at my III hotel. No fun. My sister manages a country club restaurant. She can't go 5 minutes at a bar restaurant without commenting on something the staff is doing incorrectly behind their backs, of course. Gets pretty infuriating after about 15 minutes. Drink up Shriner, they are the hardest partying, wildest group I have ever seen. I don't care if they're all grey hairs. They can drink a college fraternity under the table. They'll respect each other and their hosts, but that's where the sanity ends. Crazy things will happen that you've never seen before. Oddly enough, the best and worst groups I've worked with were both religious conventions. The worst was the full gospel men's choir. Really pushy. Tried to corner me and put me in the middle of a circle jerk prayer circle while I was trying to work. because they found out I was a young mother, was in my early 20s but looked younger. Just made me really uncomfortable. I didn't need to be saved. I needed to go restock the buffet, FFS. The Episcopalian group we had, on the other hand, was super chill. Nice people. Not one creepy vibe. Not a hotel employee per se, but I worked security at Shutocon this last year for some extra cash. For the most part, the cosplayers were respectful of each other. The real issues actually came from locals who didn't understand what cosplay was. At Shuto, people had the choice to either walk around in costume, or if you had a special badge, you were in character, and they would refuse to break character no matter what. Much like Disney workers in costume, just in paid. We had multiple issues where locals would get confrontational with certain characters, Deadpools and furries mainly, and we'd get called in. The police hated them because they would get calls about people with weapons roaming the streets of Lansing. I had to kick out one guy for trying to enter the girls' bathroom when he was dressed as a woman. 300+ pounds neckbird. I would pay to see a Deadpool cosplayer argue with random people in character. This story doesn't quite fit the thread, but it's too good not to share. One of my childhood friends is extremely Catholic, as is her entire family. She got married about 2 years ago and they rented out a big chunk of a big hotel in DC for all the guests to stay in. The other half of the hotel was rented out by the Mid-Atlantic Leather and Fetish Convention. I almost had an aneurysm from laughing too hard when the bride came down in her dress followed by about 20 dudes in assless chaps and not much else. I went to the Nella Fetish Flea Market one year in Providence, RI, and there was a middle school cheer competition there the same weekend. Priceless. Not really a convention, but Essence Festival in New Orleans is so bad that a lot of restaurants and retailers just close for the festival. It's pretty bad when closing your business is more profitable than keeping it open. I've also heard horror stories about the hotels from various people who have worked them. There have been times, more than one or two, where people have actually grilled food in their room using the bathtub and a bag of charcoal. There have been times, more than one or two, where people have actually grilled food in their room using the bathtub and a bag of charcoal. It's a wonder they didn't asphyxiate themselves, or burn the building down. The anime crowd, in my experience, is the freaking worst. First off, you had the smell. Of course there is a kind of standard nerd fan convention BO stink, but these kids freaking stunk. It was beyond just BO. Their gross funk lingered for days in some of the rooms. Truly awful. The stenches burned into my memory, but the biggest thing was that as a group they were entitled and lacking in common decency manners in a way that I had never encountered. In my supervisor's words, paraphrasing here, it's like every single one of them are only children who had crappy parents that totally phoned in raising them. Like they'd just give them anything they wanted just to get them to shut the frick up and go away. For the kids' whole lives. I couldn't have agreed with him more. There's an age at which those kids are developing BO but haven't yet discovered deodorant, or very regular bathing. I used to go to a gaming shop that had big, 150+ person YUGO tournaments weekly and the stench after one of those would take a couple of days to clear out. Romance Writers of America, a bunch of 40+-year-old single, fat women with an endless list of complaints to get free stuff. One of the worst conventions I had the unfortunate pleasure to work with when I worked as a front desk clerk. One year, at the Defcon hacker convention in Las Vegas, someone poured soap in the fountain so it was spewing bubbles the rest of the week. Also, they hacked the hotel Wi-Fi with a packet sniffer and projected it on a big screen, so you could see a stream of every image every person in the hotel was looking at. A few family photos popped up every once in a while, but 90% of it was just hentai. Yeah, we weren't invited back to that hotel. I don't work at a hotel, but let's never forget the group of Italia cosplayers who went to the Holocaust Memorial in Boston and posed, saluting in front of it. These unaccompanied kids really need a leash, or parent who care enough to tell them to think about the harm you're doing to others. I bet YouTube gatherings are awful. I heard stories of people camping out in front of YouTubers' rooms, so they had to get security this year. Dang. I can't even imagine seeing YouTube comments in real life without getting ill. I worked in Detroit and had a bunch of religious groups come in. Nuns were nice, a little needy and wanted to talk your ear off. Hindu conventions were very sweet, although they basically took baths in the bathroom sinks. But the worst people that I had to deal with were the black Christian groups that said come to our seminar, pay us money, and we'll show you how to make money God's way. Those groups were the most inconsiderate, selfish, and rude people that I have encountered in my 3 years of working in hospitality, and they never paid the hotel for the banquet space they used, and the pee-drunk pee-wee hockey parents. They were a disaster too. Not quite the Fanbase, but the hotel I've worked at a number of years ago had rooms for members of bodybuilding conventions competitions. Each time a group to stay in our rooms, all white towels and sometimes sheets would be ruined with the bronzer quick tanner stuff. We've found it all over the walls before too. It doesn't come off very easily. Another group I can talk about are the populations from my state's dry communities. Every year a major city in Alaska hosts what's called a Alaska Federation of Natives Convention, and they all come into either of the 2 major cities in the state. The folks coming from dry communities inevitably overindulge on alcoholic drinks here and cause somewhat of an unrest in the local hotels. When I was younger I was at a hotel that was hosting a Gothic convention. I screamed and cried to my mother because I thought they were vampires. You probably made their days, you guys. Someone really thought we were recognized our true identities. I wouldn't call them fans per se, but years ago the American Society of Physicists would meet at the same hotel in Washington DC every year on the same week. Most if not all such hotels have their ladies of the night, but the week of the physics convention was the week the ladies got off because they wouldn't get any business. Talk about inconsiderate. Mind, I learned this from a rather outgoing physics prof of mine. The sort of fellow who you know isn't making this stuff up but you're not going to ask just how he knows. I heard that there used to be a physics conference in Las Vegas, but they were asked to find someplace else. Apparently they wouldn't do any gambling because they knew the odds. I can't vote for having worked there, but I was a guest at a hotel during a massive metal convention nearby. I was positively stupefied by just how nice and courteous the concert goers were. Imagine a room of people dressed in leather, torn shirts, jeans, face paint, etc. But everybody is chatting quietly and professionally like it's a business convention. It was actually this that introduced me to the culture, and to the music. Yeah, metalheads are usually really nice people. Don't let the music scare you away. A mish pit for example might be super intimidating but there are unspoken rules. If someone is being aggressive they get dealt with by the bigger dudes. If someone falls down 3 people jump to pick him back up. It's a good time. Cheer moms so entitled, unafraid to not just ask for anything, but demand it. Threaten your abysmal job over it, and immediately dismiss you as a peasant and attempt to leap right to management to hear the same answer you just gave them. Their kids are sweet though, but with such a parent modeling behavior, it's depressing to know that won't last long. Multi-level marketing companies, I concur. My job is to be nice, so rejecting your delusional get-rich-quick scheme is just awkward. It's depressing spending a few days with such desperate or ignorant people, even if they are somewhat friendly at times. Black women, Southern Baptists, whatever, at risk of sounding racist. I include this generic group, which we seem to get 4 variations of every year, inducing groans from the staff every time. No tips, absurd complaints, needy. I do get some heartfelt thank you house, but those don't pay the bills, or make the 3 consecutive trips to your room to deliver 12 hangers, 3 pillows, and extra lotion, each return receiving the next request, remotely worth it to me or my co-workers getting slammed on the phones wondering where the heck I am. To end positively, some groups seemingly similar or surprising that I've liked. Travel baseball teams overall well behaved, not demanding, polite, usually well traveled, solo maintenance, out of the hotel most of the time. NRA so-called gun nuts tip well from my experience, are laid back and friendly. Not that I spend a ton of time with them, but they don't seem to advocate to staff or bring along the nutcases the news covers. Catholics pretty much the same as NRA in a way. They drink and have fun, don't ask too much. Last weekend my boyfriend and I visited the same city that was hosting the Pure Romance convention. That was pure horror. Haha, I was in Cincy last weekend too for a Reds game. It was awkward learning we were staying in the same hotel as the Pure Romance convention. I didn't even know what it was until my wife told me. We went to a small pizzeria bar nearby and watched old ladies hit on homosexual men. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.